Okay, right now I'm just fiddling around. This is my first time on OBS. Ignore some of the noises you may hear in the background. That's family. We all have family, and we all love family. I hope you love your family. I love my family. Shit. Okay, I'm not really sure if we have any viewers at all. Okay, like I said, I'm a boomer. Okay, technically, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm raised by boomers, which is why I think the way I do. But hold on real quick. I'm just trying to see if I can get some shit going. Hold on. I'll be with you in a second, folks. Da 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 da. Yeah, isn't it always nice to be prepared for live streams? But no, I'm just trying to do this just not only to test my actual live stream abilities with using OBS this time instead of my goddamn phone. So far it's turning out good. I'm just trying to get. Okay, yeah, it is. It's up. It's up. Okay, shit. Okay, but no. Anyway, like I said, if you guys are hearing me right now, I got a new mic. It's absolutely amazing. I've never heard such clarity, but who knows? I don't know if you've heard such clarity before or not. I am. Okay, sorry. Like I said, first time. I'm doing this shit for the first time. I'm still nervous about actually getting some people in here while using OBS. Let me check some things real quick. Okay, yes, that's working. Sorry, you're at the tech demo moment, everyone. Uh, so yes, the day the Earth blew up. I am absolutely not going to spoil anyone on that. I'm going to have the courtesy to do that. But I am going to tell you right now, it was a good ass movie. It was a funny ass movie. If you're here in the chat, let me know, and then I'll be able to get shit going with what I am going to discuss. But in general, like I said, if you have not seen the day the Earth blew up in theaters, go see that bitch right now. It's good. I don't know how much longer a lot of theaters are gonna have it. I guess that depends because when we went to see this movie, we went to see it last Monday. I think it was last Monday. It was either last Monday or Tuesday or whatever. It was sometime last week. When we got to the theater, of course, it was a slow day. There's only like a couple of us there, a bunch of other, there's some other teenagers. I went with my aunt. I just wanted to spend the day with her. And in the theater, it was practically empty, like a lot of people said, but it was a Monday, it was a slow day, and I do know, I think it was spring break last week. So yeah, there were a lot of people off, but most of the teenagers were going to see other movies. They certainly weren't going to see Snow White. I can tell you that much. I can tell you that much from the tickets that the people in front of us and behind us got. They did not see Snow White. But one thing that I was kind of that did sort of surprise me was when I looked on the ticker, Moana 2 was still in theaters. I'm like, what? Because it feels like forever since I saw that movie. I think we saw that before Christmas, but the fact that it's still in theaters, that should give you a bit of a clue of how weird shit is getting considering all this theater shit going on. But like I said, the movie was good. No, I want to close that. The movie was good. Go see it if you haven't. But like I was saying, what is this discussion for? Coyote versus Acme got is it's been confirmed that it's getting released. Is that a good thing? Yes, it's a damn good thing. I'm actually glad that it's finally getting released, but I this needed to be said for the longest time. The whole situation surrounding that movie in terms of getting it released was like the biggest shit show that I have ever seen considering the amount of fandoms that I've been in over the years, and in terms of like how they reacted, how they've acted to get something out. This is probably one of the worst I've seen, and I've got hopefully I have many decades left in my life, and it's probably going to get worse, but seriously, this should be studied on what not to do. And believe me, I am not putting any sort of like, I'm not trying to victimize or put Warner as the innocent party because what they did was completely stupid. But something tells me part of the reason most of this is going on isn't so much because they think animation sucks or whatever. I honestly believe a lot of the shit that is happening with their animation department and how they're handling not just their old content but their new content is mostly because of money. This whole streaming shit fucked up so many studios in terms of how they not only handle their own content but how a lot of people get it. And you would think that in 2025 we have so much access to so many things right now. Like, showing my age a bit, taking it all the way back to the past. When I was a little girl, the only thing that was close to what to like having access to older media, older movies, older cartoons was, public domain shit, the VHS tapes and DVDs. That's how I got introduced to a lot of the classic shit like that, syndication, of course, cable stuff. But right now in 2025, we have more access than we have ever had to so much stuff. Yet it seems like, well, we're told that nobody knows about it, that nobody cares about it. But I think the problem with that is that we're not showing kids the classics because they're not gonna go to something if they're not informed about it. Yeah, curiosity is a good thing, and it leads you to different paths and different shit that you don't know that you may end up liking. But it honestly feels like we don't have that kind of guidance that a lot of 80s and 90s and hell even early 2000s kids had in terms of like their parents and their grandparents and their other family members showing them shit that they grew up in, and then we get interested in it, and the stuff continues. I think Warner is having a big problem like that. Not just Warner, but so many people in general are having issues with that, which is part of the reason why they're having so much trouble getting eyes on all their stuff. But getting back to, like I said, the day the Earth blew up and Coyote versus Acme, the whole situation surrounding this from an outsider's perspective has it was fucked. It was shit. These movies were supposed to at least come out, I think at the earliest was like 2022 or stuff, and of course, okay, COVID, everything's still locked down and all that shit, like ignore that shit. Warner did some fucky shit, but the response to that, I think, hindered a lot of progress, and we're only seeing the progress now in terms of Coyote versus Acme getting released because of the good reception the day the Earth blew up got. And it wouldn't have gotten that if people just stopped acting like complete shitheads on Twitter and went out to see it. That's what I said. I said a couple weeks ago that if they wanted the day the Earth blew up and Coyote versus Acme to succeed, then stop bitching on Twitter and tweeting at Dave or Warner or whatever, and just go out and see the movies. That'll get more traction to your shit than screaming on Twitter. And guess the fuck what? I was right. I was right. I called it. I called that if the day the Earth blew up got good traction, not on Twitter, but in theaters, they would be a bit more brave and step their toes into releasing stuff. And they are. That's how you get shit that you want. You don't get shit by acting like a complete fuckwit on Twitter and then wonder why people outside the communities look at us weird. Because I know it's true. I know people that aren't into animation think that adults that are into animation that isn't specifically made for adults are weird. I know that. And I've come to accept that. I'm not going to convince everybody to love everything the same way people aren't going to convince me to love what they love. And guess what? That's all right. I think the animation community, animation Twitter, animation YouTube, they have become obsessed with trying to prove something to people that just don't give a fuck that they've lost the plot. And when you lose the plot, you end up in situations like this where you can't get shit released because the only thing companies are seeing are a bunch of weird fucking adults on Twitter acting weird, and they're going to ignore them. They're going to ignore them. They're going to pay attention to, though, is the positive traction, the good traction. People going into the movie, buying the tickets, drawing the fan art, spreading the word of mouth. That'll help. Being constructive helps your cause a lot more than being destructive. And honestly, that's the biggest crux that a lot of animation community people have. They are incredibly destructive. And the thing that bothers me so much about that is if you look at who's sort of like perpetuating that type of mentality, it's not people who really care about animation. It's people who only care about animation to get popular from it. It's like I consider them to be people that are like they want it so popular to no, bad. They want it so badly to be popular in like middle, high school and college that they even as adults they are still looking for that sort of validation, that ultimate blowjob sort of say. And it's in so many different genres, so many different hobbies, especially when you put it online. You've seen different communities on YouTube online, and they're incredibly awful. But when people talk about how incredibly awful they are, they usually point out to the people who bring in the most drama. And when I trust me when I say that most people don't want that drama. Most people don't care about it. Most people just care about enjoying their hobbies, enjoying their craft, enjoying what they love doing and making. But like I said, the crazy people, the people that are addicted to drama, the people who are addicted to, bumping up their popularity within these communities, they're always going to be the ones that suggest the dumbest shit to do in order to get their quote unquote voices heard. And it fucking backfires every goddamn single time. And it's utterly exhausting. It's utterly exhausting for the people that want change, that are trying to make change, but then a bunch of dumbass drama queens come in and ruin it for everyone. That could have happened to the Day the Earth Blew Up and Coyote versus Acme if we still had the crazy people as our spokespeople for this whole shit. But instead, thankfully, what happened was we had enough people, just a small increment of like, oop, that was my phone, small increment of people, fans, families, whatever, they went to see this movie. And even if it was a small amount, it worked. It worked. It helped. And so, if anything, the people that I want to thank for drawing attention to the Day the Earth Blew Up and eventually the release of Coyote versus Acme is not just Ketchup Entertainment, because they both had their hands in this. I actually want to thank the people who just wanted to enjoy this. I want to thank the people who were curious, the people who just wanted to support something because they loved it, and in general, the families who just knew they needed something fun to show their kids for the weekend. Because another thing that I said was, because this kind of blew my mind once I realized it. This is a $15 million movie, a $15 million Warner animated movie with zero advertising. That even though it hasn't made its money back altogether, it's getting better praise than fucking Snow White. Just sit on that for a bit. Sit on that for a bit, think about it, and realize that I don't know how the stars aligned for this to work, but whoever planned for to release this Looney Tunes movies the way they did, bro, you should get rewarded for that because no one expected such a turn to happen. Because everyone has been bitching about how Snow White was going to fail. I'm honestly glad that it did, but I was really cautious about it because, people say that shit is going to fail all the time, and it doesn't. But the fact that how this turned out, it just surprised me. And the thing that blew, like I said, the thing that blew my mind was the realization that the day the Earth blew up in theaters actually helps it because it gives families another option of a movie to take their kids to. Snow White is getting such bad traction right now, but outside of like Minecraft is coming out in like this week or in the next week or so, but imagine you're a family. You have kids. You want to take them to the movies because you just want to have, just have a nice day with them. But you that the kids, they show zero interest in seeing Snow White. But it's like maybe it's the only family family movie you think they can see that's out in theaters right now. The Day the Earth Blew Up comes in like a fucking marathon runner, just waves its arms. Hey, I'm here, and guess what? The families are coming in and giving it money, and yeah, this it was a brilliant move, a brilliant unintended move, and it's just like wow, it's like it doesn't matter if it doesn't make even a fraction of how much it costs to make Snow White. The fact that it was able to come out and just play at the same time as Snow White and people are giving it honest, good reviews, that tells you that there are always going to be people out there that want things like the day the Earth blew up. You have to give it a chance, but at the same time, you can't just run up to a company, screech at them endlessly like you're entitled to something, and then act surprised when said company just quits or doesn't do shit anymore. And like I said, this is a mentality that is passed around so many different communities, but because I'm in the animation community much more than a lot of other shit, I notice it a lot more, and it's so destructive. I come onto Twitter. This is even after I came back from my break. The amount of doom posting, because I make it a point on any social media account that I make that I do not doom scroll. Don't do that shit. If you're depressed, if you're in a mental position where you just feel trapped, don't doom scroll. Don't fucking do it. Don't doom scroll if you're even mentally healthy. It's the dumbest thing you can do. But anyway, getting back to the point. When I got back to Twitter, there was so much doom posting about animation art. I'm gonna quit. There's no point of continuing this. Like, hey, I'm gonna take over and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's bad, but the thing that just took me away is that there was hardly anyone who was trying to speak up to say something positive. And getting back to these movies, the same people that do that sort of doom posting, they're the ones that encourage this crazy behavior, the sort of destructive quote unquote protesting behavior. They're the ones that always do this shit. And as a result, we don't end up with anything but just more depression. And I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I know people were very passionate about Coyote versus Alien, and not Coyote versus Acme. I'm getting the two movies mixed up now. God damn, Coyote versus Alien, Coyote versus Acme. They'll make Coyote versus Alien soon enough. Give it 10 years, they'll make it. But anyway, like I was saying, like people were passionate about Coyote versus Acme, and I get that. The people that worked on that movie, they deserve to have their shit shown because they worked hard on it. They deserve to have their credits shown and all that stuff. But the people that were vouching for this movie, I don't I don't really think they were vouching for anything other than their own satisfaction, to the point where they forgot that actual people worked on this movie and that there were probably other reasons why it was held back. Yes, companies are spiteful, they do stupid shit, but sometimes people take things, especially now, they take any negative action that a company might do as a personal attack when it has absolutely nothing to do with that at all. Like I said, my running theory right now is that Warner is so goddamn broke that they're stealthily trying to reorganize shit, because One thing, Warner doesn't seem to do the stupid shit Disney does when it comes to announcing things constantly and never running through with them. I mean, they've they've had broken promises before, but has anyone else noticed that in terms of like lying about shit that's coming out, Disney absolutely owns that unfortunate first place title? Warner right now kind of feels like they're doing something. I honestly think they're probably gonna. This is so stupid, but I honestly think they're gonna try to rebrand another animation streaming service to be more balanced, and it won't be just like the 2010s cartoons or the ones from the 2000s. I just have a feeling somebody's trying to organize shit, and they're keeping quiet about it because, like I said, something is going on. I honestly think something is going on, but regardless of that, a lot of the behavior that's been going on because of these movies has actually been detrimental instead of helping it. It's made the community look like complete weirdo fucking psychos. It doesn't do anything today because I'm just going to say it right now. I bitch about Iger constantly on Twitter, but he doesn't care, and neither does Zayd. They don't. They don't care what a bunch of hyper emotional people on Twitter say about them because that's not their problem. Their problem is finding whatever I don't know, finding whatever crumb of change they can in the back of their couch cushions at this point. They're not going to care about what some really hyped up person on Twitter screams about releasing Coyote versus Acme because at the end of the day, they know that's not going to pay their bills. But guess what is going to pay their bills? The money that's coming in from the day the Earth blew up. And they realize that, hey, this is getting us a nice crock of change, so hey, we might as well release the movie. And like I said, that's how you do it. You show your support for the studio, and once they get that confidence back, they'll release they'll release shit. They will. And honestly, if you look back at some of the information and some of the history of both these films, yeah, the whole thing with The Day the Earth Blew Up being submitted for an Oscar last year and fucking up their chances of winning, yeah, that just, God, that's so, that's so messed up. I shouldn't laugh, but imagine you're in a studio position and you're so confident about this animation project that you submitted for an Oscar, but at the last moment they pull it out and you can't resubmit. Oh my god. That is that had absolutely pissed off so many people, but oh god damn, it's just like it's wild. That's all I can say. It is wild, but people need to understand, especially this is to animation Twitter. You have to understand that as much as you love animation, it's not solely for, how can I put it? We have to stop gatekeeping it. And I know people, oh god, I know that word strikes hot with a lot of people and for good reasons and bad reasons. But the biggest problem with animation, the animation community, quote unquote, right now is it's gatekeeping and not just of people who like different things in animation, but I mean normal people. They forget that even normal people like animation too, even if they're not as dedicated as the rest of us, and that doesn't make their views on animation any less valid. And a lot of animation people forget that power that regular people have. I mean, they have the right to laugh at and have fun at this animation shit. And I'll tell you, when we went to the theater to see this movie, like I said, the theater was nearly empty. It was just me, my aunt, and about two other families in there, but we had a blast. It was just fun. And I think people, especially when they're so committed to being the face of a community, they forget to have fun. And that's when all the weird actions, the doom posting, and all this other shit happens because of that. People just forgot to have fun. They don't know how to have fun anymore. And I think because of that inability to have fun, we get less movies like The Day the Earth Blew Up. Because because it's just, how can I put it? It's a shared, is it a okay, it's a shared emotion. Is that the right term to use? It's like, I don't know, but there's just something missing. There's the negativity that we have been surrounded by since, I want to say, at least 2016 has just killed a lot of ambition in a lot of people. They get to the point where they think everything has to have like some bigger point or meaning or allegory to it, when no, it really doesn't. And anyone who's seen The Day the Earth Blows Up knows exactly what I'm talking about. There is absolutely no point to that movie other than if you've seen the movie, you know what it's about. And it's just like, this was fun. It was utter ridiculousness. It was nonsense. It was complete and utter silliness with no point. But it's exactly what a lot of people need. It's exactly what a lot of people need to chill the fuck out. I think that's why The Day the Earth Blew Up just resonated more with people than Snow White, because Snow White, not only is it a bad looking Disney remake of an animation classic, it's trying to do shit that it doesn't need to do. Like, it thinks that it Snow White believes that it needs to project itself as some sort of like groundbreaking movie, when Walt already did that. Snow White was groundbreaking because it proved the point that animation is a legit storytelling cinematic device. That was the point. It wasn't trying to make any sort of social or moral point. The original Snow White is 100% an artistic tech demo from the 1930s. It's a 1930s tech demo. That's what it is. It was just trying to prove that animation and good music composition can tell legit cinematic stories, and that's all you should worry about. And in a way, The Day the Earth Blew Up is more like the original Snow White than the reboot, because The Day the Earth Blew Up is showing everybody that 2D animation is still a valuable cinematic storytelling device, and it worked. It's like, holy crap. Holy crap. It's like, there are other points this movie is trying to make that people are completely ignoring because they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to prove a point to a company or something. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, holy crap. Yeah, the movie is good. I'm glad Coyote versus Acme is finally getting out. But the path that we have been on to get this movie out has been complete and utter shit. It's like, I don't feel sorry for any normie that has been out of this, because I wouldn't want to be in it either, because it's so bad. And like I said, this does not help animation. People were crying. I mean, people were just like losing their goddamn minds that not if any of these movies didn't release, that suddenly the American animation industry would just like burn into flames or wouldn't exist the next day or whatever. When no, that wasn't gonna happen. We have so much more problems going on in the American animation than two movies not getting out. Trust me, we have a lot of problems, and no one's taking care of them. But like I said, this is something that I just needed to say, that a lot of people within the animation community, I think I think they emotionally manipulate so many people in the worst way possible, especially a lot of younger kids, because they're in that mindset where they're easy to manipulate emotionally. And as an adult, looking at how these people are more or less just like fucking over these kids, it's like, stop. This is not how you prepare the younger generation on how to deal with this shit, and you're making it worse. It's like a lot of times they don't know what they want. All they just they just act on what some popular person tells them, to jump on. And like I said, the people who want to be the face of a community, they do that. They constantly manipulate and just weaponize their audience to do stupid shit like this. And every goddamn time it fucks over everybody else who just wants to enjoy and chill. That's what's so obnoxious about all this. And what makes it so much worse is that it's art. It's like one of the most universal things that a human being can do. And there are people who want to make themselves the face of something that is so much bigger than themselves. And as a result, it's just made things worse. It's just made it just made things worse. But it made me realize that while I have my passion, while I have my own goals, my own morals, and all that other stuff, at the end of the day, I just still want to have fun. And this movie was fun. Too many people think that just fun is something to look down upon. And as a result, that's why so many cartoons and stuff are so dry right now, because people want to they how can I put it? They want the fame from their creation so bad, to the point where their creation doesn't really matter at the end. The only thing that they care about is getting, popular and seen as the person to look up to, the person to emulate, the person to, take all the advice to, just like with celebrities and how they think that their political takes actually mean anything in the world. It's shit like that. Shit like that I hate, because you're taking the fun out of everything. You're taking the fun out of it, you're taking the creation out of it, you're taking the freedom out of it. And so many of these communities becoming so hyper emotional or hyper fixated on the wrong things and just not creating anything. That type of mentality and that type of behavior is going to kill the animation industry a lot faster than a company holding a movie back, because it's destructive. You're not making anything. You're tearing other people down. You're tearing future creators down. And for what? For some sort of like moral hard on or whatever? It's just like, stop. This isn't helping your argument. It's not helping anyone else's argument. It's just like, god damn, stop. Oh, all right. Let me check some of the chat. Hey, yeah. So it works. Okay. Um. Okay. Ethereal Dragon. I hear new Looney Tunes movie is good. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It's like a lot of the things that. Okay. Okay. Get to be a bit more positive on things, to get back in that funny mood. Not gonna spoil it. So many different takes. It caught me off guard, and it was great. It was like, it's the type of nonsense wacky humor that I actually like, because at the end of the day, I don't know how my Twitter persona projects the type of shit that I like, because I think from the stuff that I post and the art that I make, that I kind of come off as more of like a hardcore shonen person that's all about the action and, you know thick and titties and shit. But at the end of the day, I like randomness that actually works. And the day the earth blew up was that perfectly. And seeing Daffy go back to the Clampett version versus the Jones version, it was just the treat that I needed, because I sometimes forget how insane Daffy originally was. And the insane Daffy, even though this is no hate on the Jones version feels kind of like too much of a Disney copy of Donald. And if you know Jones's background, it makes a lot of sense why he did that. But the Clampett version of The Clampett version of Daffy is just so insane and chaotic that I love it. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that in terms of the history of the Looney Tunes, the original, the original star was Porky, and the original duo was Daffy and Porky. So a lot of people that don't know that history, they'll automatically think that, oh, Bugs is the star. Bugs came first. And I know he's the mascot and he is probably by and by the most popular, but in terms of the characters that got Warner off the ground and more or less help plant their studio as just being something big was Daffy and Porky, and seeing them in this movie together and treated as they were back in the golden day was just amazing. It was just good. And of course, oh, I got to talk about Petunia. I really do love Petunia Pig. She's adorable. She is adorable. A lot of people, they're all gooning for Lola, of course, and I know there are a lot of people that like Melissa too, but Petunia's absolutely, she's just so cute. Like, throughout the entire movie, I was just going, oh, she's so cute, and they handled her perfectly in this movie. It was the perfect trio. I absolutely loved it. All the jokes are good. So many of the visual sidekicks. It's a good movie. And here I am. I just got lost in my train of thoughts talking about how good the movie was without spoiling it. That should give you an indication that you should see it. And yes, the science fiction twist was great. I absolutely loved it. I love the alien. I love how they played with the scientist. I love Oh my gosh, part of me wants to spoil it. Okay, people who are still in the chat, should I spoil? Do you want me to spoil one thing? Do you want me do you want me to spoil just one thing? If you want me to, just say yes. I don't know if anybody's going to say yes to that or something, because I'm talking to this on my phone. I'm checking on my phone, right? This is slow. I love being an Android user, but okay, no, don't spoil it. Okay, so don't spoil it. Ethereal Dragon, you're telling me no? I'm gonna give it 30 seconds and I'm going with Dragon, guys. Dragon made the Dragon made the choice, everybody. No, I want to watch it. All right, give me about 30 seconds, real quick, or actually, just give me about 10. All right, please don't. All right, your votes are in. Not gonna spoil it, but like I said, you're gonna be taken for a lot of wild twists and turns, and it's fun. It's fun. That's the important part of this movie. It was just fun, and yes, coming out of it, I was just you know a movie is good when you come out of it, you're not just hyped about the movie itself, but you want to find out more about it, not just the movie itself, but like a lot of the inspiration that came from it and all the stuff that goes into it. As soon as I got home from the movie, I just more or less binged on a bunch of videos and a bunch of Warner Brother cartoons talking about the history of Warner Brothers. And the more that I took in, the more interesting it became. It's just amazing. Knowing all that and getting to this point, it's amazing. And that's the shit I wish that animation Twitter would talk more about versus than screaming about whatever the fuck that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. That's what I miss about animation Twitter, is talking about the history of these films, because the history of how these characters were made, who made them, why they made them, and all this other shit. It is so valuable. It is so valuable on an artistic standpoint, on a storytelling standpoint, just to see what these guys were like. And I absolutely love it. Oh my god. And I'm just gonna say it like this because of course you know this is an ink video. What movie am I going to mention? I felt coming out of the day the earth blew up, I felt as hyped as I did when I came out of Wreck-It Ralph. I did, because it sparked that interest in looking into the history of the things that inspired it. And the more that you look into it, you start to realize how vast everything is, and you get inspired to create more. And if you're not really like a creative person, it inspires you to interact more. And that's the type of shit that I think we're missing with so many of these communities and so many of these forums. There's no more, it doesn't feel like there's that sort of fun, like that fun atmosphere where people will get together and they will talk about stuff even if there's uncomfortable things about it. It's like so many people want to hide from that and or act as if those negative things that did happen suddenly delegitimizes the old stuff. It's like, no, that's not how shit works. Stop doing that. It's like I said, it's just it was just fun, and I'm just glad that so many people had fun, because right now that's what people need. They need fun, they need happiness, and this cheap ass little movie did that. It did that because it just wanted to, it just wanted to showcase the legacy of the Warner Brothers characters, and it did it perfectly. And it did it for cheap. Now, this is what I wanted to jump on. The fucking cost. This movie cost $15 million to make. Once I found that out, I was like, what the fuck? It cost only 15 million to make, yet we're getting all these 100 million, 200 million, $300 million CGI movies. Like, either that is much more of a gamble in terms of if they're going to fail or not. We were constantly told that 2D needed to be stopped because it was too expensive, when clearly it's not. And if you've seen the movie, you look at it, it's like it looks good, it looks amazing, and then once you see the combination of the price, it's like, why aren't more studios doing this? Well, of course, part of the reason most of them are doing it is because they got rid of their 2D animation studios. Remember what happened with Mary Poppins Returns? They almost had a goddamn train wreck in terms of like the 2D part, because they didn't have any 2D animators left there to do that part. So they had to bring in new people. That's why you don't underestimate the power of animation, people. That's why you don't do that. But like I said, this movie to make, and it looks fucking good. So what excuse do studios have to keep pumping out shitty looking? Oh, okay, let me pull back a bit. What studios? God damn it. Okay, sorry. He's like, sorry about that. What the fuck is going on with studios to think that it's okay to make bad looking CGI movies for so much? Where is this money going? Why does CGI cost so much? And I know it's about work, I know it's about paying the right people, but no, there's something else going on. There is no reason why CGI films like this should cost so much over 2D, yet nobody's valuing 2D. It's crazy. It's crazy, but if anything, it tells you the type of people that are in charge of everything. They don't get it. They don't get it, especially when you go out of the United States and you find out that 2D animation is actually still doing pretty well and thriving, because there are people that know how to run the business better. So yeah, it's just a wacky, wacky world, isn't it? But as I said, I like the movie. Go see it. Stop being doomers all the time. Like, being a doomer in a community that's full of animation people is like the worst fucking thing you can be, and it just drives everybody nuts. Okay. Uh, okay, let's check these comments again. Hi everybody. Hi Ethereal Dragon. Hi the Boneyard. Hi Crown Scrooge. Hi Humble Marty. Hi Lema. All right, let's read some of these comments. Let's check up on these. Okay. From the Boneyard, it's only playing during the week, so I won't be able to see it in theaters. I think it's still playing here. Remember, people, I'm a Hoosier. Indiana, Indianapolis to be specific. Let me check the day the Earth blew up. Indianapolis. It's still playing here. We still got a. Oh my God, we still got a few good shows. Yeah, let me check. Uh, we're doing this live. I am checking all the way up till April 7th, and it's still going to be in theaters here. Uh, and the thing is, we went to Glendale. There are, yeah, the thing I noticed about the movie showings in my area was they weren't doing any early morning viewings, like 10 o'clock or so, because I know a lot of people hate getting up early once you hit that stride as an adult. But movie theaters usually do have morning showings for like really little kids, and there are seniors who will get up early, like my mom, who will get up early, like at 10:30 in the morning to go to a movie because they're going to be exhausted the rest of the day. But we've got, for the most part, we only have like afternoon showings, and that's where we went. That's when we went. We went at 1. Yeah, we went at 1:05 last week. But yeah, we still have plenty of showtimes here and local ones. It's only going to drop off around Friday. Friday is when we only have one theater. Yeah, only one theater in Indiana on Friday is going to have this movie as far as I'm seeing. And that's all the way out in Greenfield. So, yeah, if you're in the okay, hold on. If you're in the Indianapolis area, like yeah, like in the immediate Indianapolis area, and you want to see this movie, you need to go before the 4th because there are showings at Shiloh, Glendale, Greenwood, of course. There's one downtown. I don't, yeah, it's not at Castleton, but yeah, if you want to see this movie and you're in the immediate metro Indianapolis area, you need to go by the 3rd because before after that it's only going to be in one theater. But yeah, let me see, let me check what else is going on. Uh, Too many people in animation aren't passionate about animation. They are activists. Yeah, a lot of it feels that way, and you see my personal gripes on Twitter about it. It's like I absolutely abhor how people have just hijacked art into making it about politics, just politics. And if you know me personally, you understand why I absolutely hate that. Because and it has absolutely nothing to do with the whole women in animation situation. I've had to deal with that shit long before I even knew about that group, and that that kind of was the flint. That was the flint to me of why I don't like mixing art and politics so constantly and so hard. There is a place for it because while I don't believe art is political, I believe it can be used for politics, but making it nothing but politics is the worst fucking thing you can do. And like I said, I hate people that do that because they're making it about themselves. They're making it about the drama. It's just about power to them. And power, as we know, power corrupts, but it also destroys. But yeah, going on. Uh, well, well, his name is Dappy. Yep, it is. Okay, Filmation on the hand is known for using low cost effective. Yeah, they were, but a lot of people forget that they were also on a schedule, like a hyper tight schedule. And the people working at Filmation, they were not slouches. Most of the people that worked at Filmation back in the day were, people that were from Warner, were from Disney, a lot of big studios. They knew their shit, but because of cost and because of tight deadlines, they had to make it as streamlined as possible, which is why you get the simpler designs, the reused animation, and all that other shit. It wasn't because they didn't have the talent or that they lacked the talent. They had all the talent, but they just didn't have the time. And I'm pretty sure if they were given better schedules and, of course, of money, of course, they probably would have done a lot more because I know people shit on Filmation a lot, but if you look at their theatrical movies actually weren't things to sneeze at. They were cheesy, yeah, and of course they were trying to bank in on Disney, Disney sequels before Disney started making sequels, but they were not bad at all, and they didn't look bad at all. Like, there's a reason why Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night is still one of my favorite animated movies of all times, even though it's like one of those "what the fuck are you talking about" kind of movies, because hardly anybody over the age of 40 knows what it is. No, hardly. No, hardly anyone over the age of 20 knows what that movie is. But like I said, it's they knew what they were doing, but they had to do it in a way that worked for them and worked for what the networks wanted. And going back to watching a lot of their older stuff, if you want to see a filmation show that looked absolutely bad in terms of animation and in terms of reusing animation, look up Mission Magic. I got the DVD series. I need to clean off the CDs because I just found the box case. But my argument with that is that if you look at Mission Magic, the animation for that is a lot cheaper than even Fat Albert. Believe it or not. And if you want me to talk about how cheap it is, okay, Fat Albert, they they reused a lot of stock animations for like the walking cycles and all that other shit. Mission Magic was so bad that they didn't create most of the stuff isn't even there is hardly any new animation in the series for the main characters at all. Like anything that you see that's new is specific for that episode. But if you look at Fat Albert, even if it's cheap animation, there's still new animation for each episode, different emotions, different takes, different all the stuff. It's cheap, but you can tell that they wanted to do more with it. Mission Magic is so cheap that there are hardly any sort of like facial differences at all for any of the characters. They legit just reuse cell after cell after cell of the main characters for the entire series. And hold on, let me check how many episodes there were. Mission Magic episodes. Uh, yeah, it was only 16 episodes long, but oh boy, it feels a lot longer. And even though, like I said, I'm banging on it now, it's actually a really charming series because a lot of it feels like the Magic School Bus before Magic School Bus was even a thing. And there's kind of a theory that the lady that created Magic School Bus may have been inspired by Mission Magic for the Magic School Bus because seriously, look it up yourself. Look up Miss Tickle and look up Miss Frizzle, and they're not twins, but you can tell that like, oh yeah, these two are kind of related, aren't they? But yeah, but moving on anyway. Let's see. Okay, the glory of technology. Oh well, I wanted to enter into 2D animations so badly, but no luck. You still can. I mean, the thing is, do it yourself. You have so many different options in terms of free software, not just Clip Studio Paint, but you have OpenTunes, which is what Studio Ghibli uses, if I am correct. That's free. There are a lot of other free there are a lot of other free animating software, and of course, Yoho, Yoho, yeah, yo, dreaming, I'm gonna pirate this shit. Yeah, there's plenty of software you can pirate online, and yes, I do actually encourage pirating if you can't afford the shit. So boo to you on that. But like I said, if you really have an interest in something, at least try it. Even if you're not even if you don't think you're perfect or you're not matching up fast enough, just try it. Try it just to see what interests you about it. And who knows, you'll be interested in something else connected to it. But like I said, just don't give up. That's kind of like the whole doomer shit that I hate. Like, AI's gonna take over, so I'm gonna stop practicing animation because there's no point to it. Yeah, you actually want to keep trying to animate because someone's gonna need you. Like, don't give up so soon. Seriously, just don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, 3D is expensive because they have more people with engineering pay, expensive computer software, and programmers for scripts. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, and to say a good thing on CGI, one thing I do love about CGI is like the gradual evolution of it, because if you've been here for the earliest, just to see where we've gotten to this point now, even with some of the weird character designs we were getting with it, but even with that, I say that even with like the shit character designs that we're getting, because I know a lot of people hate the Bean Mouth Steven Universe style. Even though we hate it, consider this for a moment. 20 years ago, people would have been struggling to try to render those types of shapes and that type of texture correctly so it doesn't look like crap. And right now we're in a time where you can actually do so much more with CGI. You can do more shapes, more textures, and you can also create 2D with CGI programs. That shows you how powerful these softwares are and how talented the people who make them are. And the sad thing is that people just aren't taking a lot of advantage of it, or they're just, being discouraged to take advantage of it, but who knows. Okay. All right, let's see. Probably got two. 2D has fewer people working on it. The good thing about New York is the boosting integrity in voting for a boosted. Oh my god. Um, I remember when you talked about with weaponized nerd rage. Ah, crap! I can't even remember that. Their Star Trek is good. Yeah, I haven't seen Filmation Star Trek. I've seen a couple of episodes, including the infamous Kirk is a jerk episode. But the thing I do know about the Star Trek Filmation series was that it inspired that running gag in the 2010s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series that it was Leo who watched that show, right? He watched the Star Trek lookalike show, and see, that's how you do a parody. I absolutely love the parody of Star Trek and how they did it in the Turtle show, because they were making fun of the animation and the cheesiness of it, but they did it in a way that showed love and poked fun at the shit that we all knew looked goofy about it. They weren't insulting people who like that, and the fact that Leo loved it was just so endearing, because it's a cheesy, crappy show, but that's what he pulled his heroism from, and it's goofy, but it's endearing. Um, let's see, even a ginger boy with glasses, nearly traumatized by the pirate rap. Don't ask me to do the pirate rap. I know it from heart by heart, and it's just, why do I know the One Piece rap so much? I had that shit played on replay while I was at work. Um, remember Mortal Kombat animation CGI? Oh god, yep, yeah. We've come a long way from that. In fact, let me try to remember some of the worst looking CGI in terms of like. Oh, I've got one for you. This is like for my old school fans. Remember the really old They Call Me Sonic music videos with the Saturn era CGI? If anyone remembers that, and then you just look at how Sonic is rendered not just in shows but in movies, that really shows you how far CGI has evolved. And that shows you how far we've come. But like I said, it's just, I think even with shitty companies, a lot of the problems that the animation community is, going through right now, among a lot of shit, is that too many people want to be the voice of an entire community that should not have a singular voice. That is incredibly stupid. And it just, I just don't, part of me doesn't know where it comes from. Maybe this is my weird 2000s era riddle raised mind saying this, but I honestly do not know where the constant negativity is coming from, and I don't know why a lot of people aren't fighting back against it and calling it out as it is, because at this point it needs to be called out. the constant doom scrolling, the constant doom posting, people bringing attention to that and not offering a solution, it needs to be called out because when you're surrounded by nothing but that negativity, and any attempts to find a solution are shut down because people just want to wallow in their shit, that that really needs to be called out, especially, like I said, especially in a community that is themed around art. I know the stereotypes of artists, like, oh, artists are dramatic, artists are emotional, artists don't take showers and all that other shit, but the whole artist depression stage that we're in right now, we need to just drop that shit and stop it, because having that type of mentality is not going to progress animation any further. I think right now, with so much shit that is going on right now, a lot of house cleaning is being done. And I told a friend from the UK this. I honestly think that they're they're not exactly biding their time, but they're observe with a lot of the shit that's been going on around politically too. I think a lot of people have just breathed a sigh of relief that a bit of the tape has come off on what they can say and do, because for the last few years it's been horrible, because it's just been this attitude from people who say they want things to be progressive, they want things to be diverse, but how can they do that when they're also the most miserable people on the planet? It's just like, I how can you stand for diversity, yet you not only don't support it, but you how can I what's the word I'm looking for? You don't actually put hope behind it. It's just this weird thing that I'm noticing, is that a lot of the time with the whole stance of people that say they care about the whole diversity, the progressive shit, they like seeing people get mad, and they like seeing people being upset, and that feels like the complete opposite of what they claimed their goal was, because there came a point when I realized that, why am I wasting my time worried about if some person that I made up being the bad guy gets upset that I'm happy? It's like, I'm not being happy for myself. I'm being happy in spite of somebody else. Like, I can't get happiness unless I know somebody else is miserable. And that's kind of the mentality a lot of these people are in. It's just like, it's crazy. That's probably why they're so miserable, is because they can't they trick themselves into thinking that if somebody that they label as the enemy is happy, that means that they can't be happy, because for reasons or whatever, and they spread that to other people, and that just keeps growing and growing and growing until we get to this point where everybody is negative, everybody hates each other, and everybody's too mentally and physically exhausted to actually, come up with a real solution to what they claim is the problem. And that happens so much within the animation community. It's I mean, people throw around the word toxic a lot. It is toxic. It is toxic because ugh, it's toxic because there is it's a constant air of the worst is always going to happen, so there's no point in you trying to find something to help yourself. That's the kind of mentality and attitude they put on other people. And I don't think it's right, because it doesn't make people stronger, and it doesn't prepare them for anything. It just makes them expect the worst out of everything and everybody, and that's where you get these hyper emotional reactions to all this shit. And it's driving people crazy. So honestly, I just think that once people remember that it's fine to be human and to have fun again, a lot of the shit would actually blow over. Any, Anybody with different ideas than me is evil. That's their mentality. Yeah, that's kind of the mentality that's going on. It's like, I mean, let's be honest. We all have that thought that anyone who's not like me sucks, which is fine because it's not like you're saying, oh, it's not like you're saying, oh, they need to not be able to do basic human shit anymore. It's like saying somebody saying somebody is a clown because they're not in your little social circle. I can get that because that's a very human thing to do, but the whole you're not in our social circle so you're evil sort of thing is the where it needs to stop. That's what's been driving not just the divide but the insanity. So yeah, let's see what else is going on in the chat. I ruined your childhood. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that type of shit. That's really it's obnoxious. And I'm just going to be the person that says it's like you can't ruin my childhood because you didn't make the best parts of my childhood. All you're doing is making a really shitty no, it's not even a shitty version because I still have the original. What they're doing is just like making what's the word I'm looking for? They're just making a try hard, edgy 2000s LOL we're different type of shit thing to it. It's like they're no better than the tryhards of the early 2000s. That's basically what a lot of the I ruined your childhood people are like. They're just that. They're the tryhards. They're the talentless tryhards that get upset when fans laugh at their failure. That's what they are. But yeah, it's just tiring. It's just tiring. And the funny thing about that, the whole I ruined your childhood thing is that they say that, but then you look at the guys, and I mean that in general, in terms of like everybody. You look at the people that are just trying to contribute something like the day the Earth blew up. They didn't say anything. Like two of the guys that I know two of the guys that worked on that shit. They didn't act like assholes. They didn't go, ah, I ruined your thoughts on how Daffy is supposed to act. Ha 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 ha. They didn't do that because they were more focused on just creating a good film. So the whole I ruined your childhood type of mentality, that kind of shows you where their thoughts are. Their thoughts aren't on making a good product. They're just lavishing in their power because they otherwise they wouldn't have any and they can't enjoy anything without feeling like they have power over people. It's all a power play. It's just like, and it's so lame. It is so goddamn lame. And I'm saying this as a person that does nerdy shit. If the only way that you can feel power is by taking control of over a cartoon that's intended for to make people laugh, if that's the only way that you feel power, that says a lot more about how pathetic your life is versus like the nerds that watch it, because at least the nerds are capable of just admitting that, hey, this is what I like, this is what I do. Yeah, I know it's not conventional, but this is me. But then you get like the posers who have to like jump through hoops to try to validate all this other shit, and you can tell that all they care about is just like their image. They don't care about the thing that they claim to enjoy. It's just about image to them. That's why I call them like the mean girls or the wannabe popular girls, because they're pulling all those tactics from middle and high school and college and trying to apply that as an adult. And once you get to a certain age, you realize how stupid that is, because it's like you're in your 30s. Just enjoy crap. Like, you're an adult, you have more room to enjoy more things, so why are you worried about being popular about it? Because we're no longer in that type of setting. Yeah, we have work, but if you bring that into the workplace with a bunch of adults, that's on you. That's not on everybody else that doesn't want to participate in that anymore. That's on you for trying to bring it back into the trying to bring it back. It's like most of us, we don't want to relive our high school years because that was just it. We want to keep moving into the future because we still have so much life to live. But people who are stuck in that I want to still be popular like I was in school, that shit is driving people crazy. And it's like, can you not let that go and just enjoy shit now and like let the rest of us do our work, please? Okay. We don't talk about Netflix good times, LO. I did not watch that series and I'm glad I didn't. It looked bad, but for some reason, the animation style, not the animation, the character designs feel so familiar. I never looked into who did the character designs, but I would not be surprised if it was somebody who has worked on anything from Titmouse because it has that kind of edge to it. And I love the Titmouse kind of like hyper actiony, kind of edgy, angle style. It's kind of the way that they mesh French and anime aesthetics together. That's kind of what Titmouse reminds me of. But I would not be surprised if the person that worked on the character designs for that worked on a Titmouse show because it feels like that, which makes it even worse because why would you waste your talent on a show that bad? And the fact that I forgot that that show existed until you brought it up kind of shows you the market left on the landscape, which is none. Okay, they did. I don't understand how you have contempt for the property you're working on. It's jealousy. A lot of them want the popularity that the original creators got, and they're upset because they think they're entitled to it. They don't think they have to work for that type of popularity or that type of respect. They think they're entitled to it because they've been constantly told that because they're special and people are quote unquote missing out on their genius when they never had genius to begin with. They're just shit. And so as a result, you get people who are insanely jealous and filled with contempt with shit they have to work on. And as a result, if they don't keep that in check, it spills out into what they make and they show their hatred for it and it becomes bitter. It doesn't become funny. It's like how, of course, with Velma and the Powerpuff Girl reboot, both of those shows were handled by people who part of me thinks that they were lying about not liking the shows. I can understand not being into it because when I was younger, I wasn't into Scooby Doo at all. I It wasn't until like I was older that I mellowed out and I started watching it, and I really do love it. I mean, I'm not a super fan, but I really do like Scooby Doo, and I like the contributions that it made because again, looking into the history of Scooby Doo, why it looks the way it does and all this other shit, looking into the history of that, it fascinated me and it made me respect it. But with shit like Velma and the Powerpuff Girls reboot, I honestly think that the showrunners were kind of lying about how they thought it was bad or whatever because 9 times out of 10, especially with Mindy, who I know she's older than me, but if I'm getting my timeline correct, she would have been at least in her mid-teens by the time the Powerpuff Girl. No, not sorry, wrong person. I'm thinking Mindy, but she's. I know she's older than me, and by the time she would have been able to know anything about Scooby Doo, I think she would have been in her at least she would have been old enough to at least the newest thing for her at the time may have been a pup called Scooby Doo, and I could understand her not really getting into that show and not really liking Scooby Doo in general. But a lot of the claims that she made about how it was depicted originally, it comes out from somebody that is trying way too hard to deny the fact that maybe she just wasn't into it, but she had to make the reason why she wasn't into it some sort of big social reason when she just didn't like it. Like that's okay. It's like it's okay to like things. It's also okay not to like things, but what's not okay is to lie and make up shit about the show keeping you out because of stupid reasons. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the same thing happened with the Powerpuff Girl reboot. Like, the claim was that the person that was in charge of that didn't think that it was like positive enough for girls, even though she's old enough. By the time it would have originally came out, she would have been like in her mid-teens or whatever. And it's like, you were what? It's like, you were in a time, like, mentally, to remember how the show was, and all the claims that you make about it actually never happened in the show. So you're just making shit up to sound, you're making shit up to sound like a lot deeper than you are over this cartoon show. And I just hate that. I hate that. It's it continuously comes from people who don't usually like the medium anyway, so they're just trying way too hard, probably, just because of the, just the views that animation gets in the US anyway, in terms of like the people who make it. Like, people who really do love animation don't give a shit if Hollywood doesn't take it seriously, because that's not their, they don't care. They don't care if a bunch of live action people don't think animation is up to their stuff, because they're not making it for them. But still, anyway, like I was saying, live action Powerpuff Girl bashed the cartoon by having Buttercup save the professor. Remember that cartoon that whitewashed us? The thing that I hate about the Powerpuff Girl reboot is they brought my boy in and absolutely wasted him. Oh my god, when I found out, hold on. Oh, when I found out by that Donald was playing Professor Utonium, I was like, holy shit, they brought back Donald Faison for this, and they wasted him. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't seen him. It feels like I haven't seen him in years. Yet the only thing that I see him show up in is that stupid Powerpuff Girl thing. And I'm like, oh, why? Why would you do that? Okay, but yeah, it was so stupid. It's like, oh my god. The whole thing with the Powerpuff Girl live action is like, an if they had an ounce of understanding what parody was, it could have worked. And the thing is, this could have worked 20 years ago. They could have had a joke live action Powerpuff Girls, like, short or special, and it could have been making fun of the stuff that even the original show makes fun of, because we know that he's a big kaiju Super Sentai fan. Imagine if somebody with passion made an official live action Powerpuff Girls skit, and it was like 100% based on the Sentai type of aesthetic. That would have been awesome. People would have loved to see something like that, where it's actually the Powerpuff Girls as we would imagine them as live action. But the live action, special that we got, it's just more drama. It's just more stupid, cynical, nihilistic shit. And people, like I said, people are tired of that. They're tired of having the things that are made to be positive and made to be fun turned into cynical shit because somebody claims that's realistic. No, that's not. Being happy is being realistic. Or being realistic is being happy. Who knows? What, what I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say, enjoying things is human. Let us be humans and let us just be happy, for fuck's sake. Why is that so hard? Of course it's power, like I said, but let's see. I couldn't stop laughing at it because it's so bad. Um my brother is turning his daughters into weeb. He's got them into food anime. Let's see. I think a big problem is that a lot of these showrunners haven't earned their dues, so to speak, and are being put in front of the line for people who actually have talent and put in. Yeah, I feel that too. I feel that a lot because, and I'm not hating noobs, because when we start out, it's always going to be hard, but it's kind of clear that with a lot of the past few shows that we've gotten, they promoted people that were not ready for it, and a lot of their shows clearly show that they weren't prepared for it. They weren't prepared for it at all, and they threw them in the water. And the thing that I think is even worse is it feels like those people didn't have like the same type of support that Hollywood gives to a bunch of celebrities about the whole, the whole hate campaign and all this stuff. Oh, we need to protect the celebrities. A lot of the animation people, I think, I felt were thrown under the bus, and they weren't prepared. Not in it. I'm not talking about fan reaction either. I don't think that they were prepared for the workload, which is why we get so many posts from young people saying that they're already freaking out, that at their breaking point. It's like, why are you talking like this? I thought you loved it, but you're telling me you hate it. And you look more and more into it, and it's clear that they're being put in positions that they're not prepared for, yet at the same time they're still scared to really call that out. Because I know the whole things with the unions and all this stuff, it's like, yeah, unions, but you're still being bossed around by a lot of people who are incompetent, who don't have good leadership skills. Like, take care of them and you'll see a lot of changes happening that you actually want. uh let's see. I'm nearing 42 and grew up on Scooby Doo. Yeah, I know a lot of people that grew up on Scooby Doo that are like in their 40s and 50s right now. They grew up with it, and it's one of those things that sticks around because it works. It's just the thing that really sticks to me with Scooby Doo in general is just how timeless it feels. I mean, yeah, their dresses, their type of dress is kind of like, it is from the 70s, but it's so goddamn simple. It could still work today. That's the thing that, how did they do it? How did they land simplistic character designs that were so perfect that in terms of the good reboots, they only had to change tiny things? That is peak right there. That is how you know you landed it. And that's probably the reason why so many reinventions of the series don't work, is because they're not timeless. They're borrowing tropes that are so specific and so short-lived that so many of the reboots are going to stay within their era because there's nothing charming to come back to about them. But with Scooby-Doo, it's so simplistic that it really doesn't matter what generation you're in. You can find something in it that you love, at least when it's handled well. All right. Let's see. Hey, great to see a new stream. Hey, Buddy Smith. Yeah, it's been a while. Uh, Velma united people in hating Mindy Kaling, yet some people will act like hate isn't deserved. The thing is with Mindy, God, that hurts so goddamn much. Oh man. I said it before, but I actually used to like Mindy a lot. I actually did. I actually didn't mind Mindy at all. In fact, she plays one of my favorite characters from Wreck-It Ralph, Taffeta Mutton Fudge. And I'm just gonna say this right now, she had no problem playing a white chick there. So yeah, but whatever. But anyway, yeah, Velma just hurt. Velma just hurt, not simply because of the Scooby Doo thing, but the whole just seeing people that you liked act so ugly and just. It's just. And the funniest thing about, like, the funniest joke from Velma was the whole thing where Velma was complaining to Fred that Fred thought she was Mexican. And the thing that makes it so funny to me is because the character designs for so many non-white characters are so bland. If somebody told you that Velma from that series was Mexican, people would have bought it because, like I said, the character designs are so bland in terms of non-white characters that you just splash a character with brown and you can say they're black and somebody will say yes, but then you take the same design, say they're Mexican, somebody will say that and will agree. It's so bland that you cannot fault anyone for not knowing what race these characters are except for brown, because that's all they are. There's nothing distinct about them. They're just brown. And then they assign their race to them. It's just like, son of a bitch. And you wonder why people don't like this. people should watch were Tokusatsu. Yeah, I cannot pronounce it. I always pronounce shit wrong, but yeah, they should. Uh, biggest problem was the Mindy simp behind it. I cannot remember who that is. Cannot remember it. To think Mindy's idea was for original series parodying CW shows, and she accepted WB wanting. Dang it! Come on. I'm reading this. Sorry, guys. I'm reading this off my phone, and the like that big old heart button just blocks everything. Okay, to think Mindy's idea for an original series parodying CW shows, and she accepted WB wanting it to be a Scooby Doo show. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I would have rather have her make an original show than what she did with Velma, because even on the topic of reboots, it was just a bad reboot. It just wasn't a fun adult Scooby series. And the problem with it being a Scooby series is it's always going to be attached to Scooby Doo because of it. When if it was an original show, it could have been its own thing and people would have left it alone. Like, and I'm going to be 100% honest. I would have rather have seen an original show about, a girl who's Indian, and they could have like made better designs for her, made original designs for her. I'd rather have that than them trying to repaint everything because nothing came from it. Because even though they had to, race bend these characters, they're still they still had to look like the original Scooby-Doo characters, so they have no real identity of their own. It's just going to be Black Shaggy or Chinese Daphne or Indian Velma. That's it. There's really no variety. They aren't their own characters. They're still just the Scooby-Doo characters but with a different coat of paint on them. So, yeah, it's kind of shitty. Okay. Did you like Jellystone? I watched clips of it. Yes, I did. It's the type of it's my wheelhouse. Learning the changes. The thing that caught me off guard is when I watched the Top Cat segments, and I was like, "Holy shit! Wait, is did they make Top Cat a pimp?" And the more I thought about it, the funnier it got because it's like I really do love the original Top Cat, and he's a shyster. He's just a shyster from the '60s, and the idea of them making him sort of a pimp never stopped. Top Cat the pimp. Holy shit! That's like the most. It's fucked up, but it's fucked up but wrong in a funny way. I saw Spooky's reaction to the whole gun thing. It was like, oh wait, is she trying to subtly tell us that she wants to kill herself? Holy crap! It's fun. It's a really that's how you do the parody, like bringing it over to the next generation thing, because a lot of the characters are related to the original Hanna-Barbera characters. There's not just like, oh, this is this character but a girl. A lot of them are related to them. That's how you did it, and I don't feel like the spite or the cynicism in Jellystone as a lot of like Velma did. And plus, I'm gonna be honest, I love Greenblatt's humor. I love his random, weird absurdity. That's why I was such a massive fan of Chowder. Like, seriously, Chowder, when it came out, was like a big game changer for me because I was still on that bent where I didn't think there was ever going to be any more Cartoon Network shows originals that would bring me back in because I was so into anime at that point. But Chowder just, I don't know what it was about that first episode, but I watched more and I just wanted more and more. I loved the way that it was animated. The I loved how it was just it's just about food. That's all it is. It's a show about food, and there's so many crazy adventures that you can do from that. And I absolutely loved it. And yes, I do believe that Cartoon Network screwed it over because I know so many people called it gross and all that other shit, but it was one of the best shows that they've had. And man, he got the short end of the stick with Harvey Beaks. So I'm actually glad that he was able to break it with Jellystone, but I know that if I remember correctly, it did end, and because it was on Max, it was behind that wall. But I'm actually happy that he landed something that it was clear he had a lot of fun with it, and I hope that people do. remember it as time goes on and it's not just like passed over or looked on about. I hope what I'm saying is I hope people don't view it the same way as they do Teen Titans Go, because that would just that would get me that would bring me down so much. That would be such a downer. Top Cat was the best part of Jellystone. Da, 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 da. I half liked what they did with Cindy, just missed the southern accent.
Oh man, you just blew right into my mind. Oh crap.
Shit, sorry about that. You just reminded me of Janet Waldo, and I'm like, oh man. Oh yeah. For those of you that don't know, Cindy Bear was played by Janet Waldo, and she unfortunately, I think that's correct. Yeah, yeah, she unfortunately passed away in 2016. But if you look into a lot of the stuff that she did and how she was screwed over in the Jetsons movie, it's one again, it's one of those things that kind of hits and it's sore. But like I said, I'm just glad that he was able to do something that he liked. All right. Yeah, it's a shame what happened to Harvey Bakes. That whole era of Nickelodeon cartoons during that time was just like it was so shaky. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what shows were gonna last. Of course, SpongeBob was safe, but yeah, man, in terms of Nickelodeon, I don't know, cause I know it's really easy to say that, oh, SpongeBob sucks and all this stuff. I don't hate SpongeBob. I don't watch it as much as I used to back when I was younger, when it came out, because I really don't have any reason to. But uh, I oh, this is just so tough to say. I don't hate the show. I but it's kind of clear that they oh man, this is gonna hurt saying this. It kind of did die with Steven, because I honestly think if he were still here, even if they did make sequels, which I know he was against, but if he were still here, he would have at least some grounding on to give advice on what to do with these sequels. And maybe they wouldn't be as bad, but I there's just something missing from it. And going back to what I was saying about Nicktoons and all that stuff, I don't know if we can ever have that sort of like excitement and that sort of like what's the word I'm looking for, that sort of revival between the original Nicktoons and I want to say around 2005. That whole era was just like perfect. That whole era was just like the best Nicktoon golden age. And I know a lot of people within Nick Studio Animations, they want to keep that going, but they're just kind of they're missing that variety. They're missing that sort of like experimentation type of feel. At least that's what it comes off like. But who knows? Like I said, the Paramount, Nickelodeon, they have a lot more power over this shit that's going on. So who knows what other drama is going on behind the doors with that. Let's see. I did find the constant scientist being a scientist stuff kind of annoying, but they made up with her being kind of a loser. If you mean Petunia or okay, Buddy Smith, do you mean Petunia or Cindy? Because I think I know what you're talking about, but then again, I might not. Let's see. Baba Louie, I was disappointed. They just made her a lame businesswoman, and that was it. Baba Louie, Baba Booey. Let's see. God dang it, stupid heart. Hold on. I have to back out and restart my chat just to see your your comments because of this thing. Um, Look, we all knew the minute Steven died that Nickelodeon was gonna do whatever they wanted. Yeah, yeah, we all know. But I still kind of feel that even if he were still alive, they would have pushed out at least one or two other sequel shows, and he would begrudgingly but still help with making sure that they were at least good. Okay, you meant Cindy Bear. Okay, I was wondering what you meant because Petunia Pig and the day the Earth blew up, she is a scientist, and believe it or not, she is kind of a loser. Funny enough, so that's why I thought you were talking about Petunia because they that's one of the things I like about the day the Earth blew up is how they managed to. Because the thing right now is like every female character has to be a scientist, but they never explain exactly what type of science that she is. And just tiny spoiler. I'm sorry I have to mention this because it's part of the point. Petunia Pig actually has a really cool job. She's a food scientist. She does shit with flavors and all that other stuff. And if you know anything about that, that is seriously one of the most interesting, coolest kind of like food jobs that you can do because I know you're working with artificial chemicals and stuff, but when you learn how that works, that is actually interesting. And I like that they didn't over explain it. They specifically told us what she is so that we know what her thing is and how she fits in, and it worked. If you're gonna make your girl character a STEM character, please be specific with what field she is because no, when you say STEM, what part of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are you talking about? I'm technically a STEM major, believe it or not, but my STEM field is computer. God, my STEM field is computer and coding and all that shit. But if you say STEM, if I just said STEM, you would never know specifically what I'm talking about. And that's what I hate so much about like so many of these shows that are so dead on about making girls into science, but they're not specific on what science fields they're getting into because science, technology, engineering, math, that covers so many broad areas, but they never show it. They only show like, oh, basic math. That's not just what STEM is. So they undervalue STEM fields by not showing us a variety of STEM fields. And that's why I hate it so much. But anyway, Petunia is great. But women CEOs, oh my god. Ethereal Dragon, there is a character in this movie. She only shows up for like maybe two or three scenes and a minute total, but I think there's a Joe character that you are gonna like what happens to her because even at the end that caught me off guard. It was like, wait, was that it? Is that seriously what happened to her? Wait, the movie's in. Oh crap! That's kind of my reaction to that whole joke. Is like, oh, wow, they really ended it like that. Damn. Okay. Okay, I find Petunia and the modern takes has been so good for her. Yeah, because she's just an adorable character. I'm sorry, Petunia Pig is just so cute, just so cute. I think people don't understand the importance of having variety in your girl characters is because the problem with so many girl bosses right now is they're the same personality. That's why it sucks when you make every girl character on your team a girl boss because it's essentially just the same character talking to themselves constantly and it's the worst personality traits. The thing that works with Looney Tunes in terms of their girl characters, and I'm talking about the main three in terms of Lola, Petunia, and Melissa. If anybody remembers Melissa, hold on. Actually, do yeah, Melissa. If you remember Melissa Duck, it's just like the way that they had those three girls work off their opposites worked so well in the Looney Tunes shows, with Daffy being more Clampett Daffy and Melissa being more sardonic and sarcastic. It bounces off well. And Bugs being grounded, but Lola being crazy worked, and Petunia being helpful while Porky is more inward and kind of shy because of a stutter. It works. That's how you do chemistry like that. And Petunia works as like the really sweet girl next door type. It just works that way, and so I'm glad the way that her character turned out in the end. It worked. Um, Really want them to include more obscure Looney Tune characters more. So, oh yeah, one of the jokes that caught me off guard in terms of like older characters showing up in The Day the Earth Blew Up was um they mentioned beans, and I was like, wait, what the hell? It was like when I watched Space Jam a couple of years ago, like maybe a decade ago, and finding out that Bosco was in it the whole time, and then real finding that moment where they had the picture of Bosco on the wall during the scene where Bugs is chained up by the aliens and he's trying to introduce them to what's going on. If you look on the side of the theater, there was actually a picture of Bosco on the wall, and that just kind of caught me off guard because like they managed to mention Bosco without making a big deal of it. That's how you do shit like that. And in The Day the Earth Blew Up, there was a Beans cameo, but it wasn't like he just showed up. He's actually the mascot of Beans Coffee, and it works. Okay, let's see. Really want them to include more obscure. Da, 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 da. They're all bitchy in modern cartoons. Melissa, it's a shame she's kind of yeah. I wish they would bring her back. Gabby was also being brought back. Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. Gabby was brought back in the what's it, the Wabbit shorts. I actually was really shocked to find that out because I know a lot of people don't like Gabby because he came from an era when they were I can't rem- I can't remember if it was when Clampett came back, but there was that little period of the Gabby shorts. I know there was some issues going on in Termite Terrace between the guys, and they're considered some of the worst Porky cartoons because Gabby himself wasn't so much of an endearing character because of course Porky is the straight man, but Gabby wasn't working so well. But regardless of that, I do like Gabby because he's I can understand why people don't like him because he's too abrasive. He's way too abrasive. He's like he's not Donald. He's like Daffy. He's like Jones era Daffy, but a lot more cynical and a lot more bitter. But at the same time, I still enjoyed his little hijinks, and I here I go again. I think his original character design was just cute. It was just a really cute looking goat character. So yeah, I was surprised when Gabby showed up again. Um, let's see. I like Gabby. They tried to make him sort of a Porky's Donald. Yeah they did. They tried to make Gabby into Donald, but they didn't land it right because the best thing about Donald Duck is that yeah, he is abrasive, but he usually only gets that way because somebody else is fucking with him. But if you see Donald Duck before he gets pissed off, he's actually a really calm person, but he just takes things to the extreme, which is why his outbursts are so funny. But with Gabby, he always was kind of just mean. That's all I can say. He starts off mean and he continues to be mean for no reason. But if you look at like the shorts with Donald when he turned more into uh, a more rapid fire angry character, because originally even Donald Duck was more kind of like Daffy in that he was more chaotic and he always fucked with Mickey. If you watch his original debut short, I'm talking about Donald. He um Donald originally showed up in the band short, and the whole thing with that is Mickey's the conductor of the band and he just wants to go on with the concert, but Donald is the one that's playing the Daffy role because he's screaming at the top of his lungs trying to sell concessions, and when he realizes that there's a concert going on, he pulls out a piccolo and he keeps playing Turkey in the Straw that distracts the band and they start playing with him. So Mickey is the one who keeps getting pissed off. And at the end, Donald is the one who trolls everyone because he's the only one that stayed at the concert after the tornado blew, every destroyed it, and he plays Turkey in the Straw again, pissing off the musicians, and they throw a drum at him, but he still gets the last laugh anyway. That's how Donald started out. um, but yeah, in terms of Gabby always started out as aggressive, and that kind of rubbed people the wrong way because look at a Jones short of Daffy where he's more or less the villain. He start you Daffy only gets aggressive when you push his buttons. Most of the time in Jones shorts, he starts off egotistical. He starts off as wanting all the attention to himself. So we enjoy seeing him getting cut down a peg. So his aggressiveness works because we're watching an egomaniac getting cut down a peg. With Gabby, he didn't have like his character doesn't start off with anything endearing or start off with anything so where we want to see him get his comeuppance because he starts off in a place where it's just kind of miserable. But yeah. Okay, let's see. Foxy and Roxy. I'm reading from Buddy Smith. Da-da. I just love live streams. Let's see, Foxy and Roxy. Oh yeah. Okay. I think Tiny Toons handled them well in terms of like bringing them back to the popular spotlight because they handled them really well for their episode. Because the if I remember correctly, that whole episode started with, at least in terms of message and tone, was the importance of the legacy Warner cartoons and why they shouldn't be forgotten. And by the end of them, they get so popular that they take over the Tiny Toons position. That's how you handle shit like that. Oh man, I wish I could remember how they re-sang the song. We're tiny, we're what was it? We're tiny, we're toony, we're black and white and loony, or something like that. They redid the theme song just for them, and it was great. Um, yeah, the early God dang it. Why does it do this? Yeah, the early Donald appearances, Donald is in the screen seeing his early attitude. Yeah, and like I said I said this on Twitter. A lot of people know that the early cartoon studios, they were rivals, but people forget that they worked for each other. Like one person would work for iWorks, and but then he would go to Warner, but then he would go to Disney, but then he would go back. They would just, they would just jump back and forth. But because of that, they learned from each other. But that's where also the rivalries were birthed. So it's understandable. But the reason a lot of the characters start off one way and end up one the other is because they're all trying to, they want, how can I put this? They want to grab the popularity they see that works for one studio, but once they realize it doesn't work, they know to change it up because Jones was really, 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 he was a really big Disney fanboy, and you can see that in a lot of his work. His early work was really trying to hit that Disney stride, and a lot of that is in his characterizations too. And he did get a chance to work with Disney, and I don't mean as like, oh, he's just some unknown person. He actually worked and talked with Walt a lot, and the thing that really got me is they this is and it's so interesting. Chuck Jones was pro union, but he chose to work with Walt, who was against the unions. It's like, wow, he was really willing to put aside, put aside his thoughts on that, just to at least work with Disney at least once. And their split, at least the way that it was told from the documentary I was working, it didn't feel like it was full of spite. The reason It felt like the reason Jones left was because he realized that what he wanted, which was to be like Disney, was something that he could achieve on his own. Because when he was working at Disney, he had to work for Disney, and he didn't like that. But he still respected what Disney made, and I think by the time they parted ways, he realized that he already had the talent that he saw in Disney to make his own things. Because how did they put it? Walt asked him what he could change. Walt asked Jones what he could change in order to keep him at Disney, and Jones' answer was more or less like, yeah, I like, thanks man, this was great, but I realized that I just rather do things my own way, and that's just how they parted. And to me, that just, it just kind of like, it threw off my perception of how the relationship may have been like, because in so many documentaries now, they hype up hate between a lot of companies and teams, but then you realize it wasn't as big as it was, and it was like, huh. So it ended well. So why can't we do that now? So there's no reason for this drama at all. Uh, okay. And one other thing that's kind of funny with the whole Chuck Jones and Disney thing and him going back to Warner, he got in trouble with Warner Brothers later on. That when I heard what movie he got in trouble for, I was like, oh my god. I I bet he wished. I wonder if he kind of regretted, going back to Warner for what happened. It was like, oh man, even Walt wouldn't have done that to him. It's like, shit. Wow. Let's see. Agreed on Tiny Toons doing them good. I had a VHS with that episode and the Bosco and Honey episode. Honey! Yeah, I remember that. Crazy that Jones was such a Disney fan. I mean, it makes sense because he grew up in that era when Walt was really starting to, rise up. And I can understand why he was inspired by him. And at the same time, that's why I was kind of surprised that while he was disillusioned to the studio system at Disney, he didn't leave hating Walt. He understood what Walt did, but understood that that's not what he wanted to do, and he moved on with his life. That was mature, and I give both of them props for that, because they could have made it a lot worse than what it ended as, but they didn't. They moved on with their lives, and I'm that's so refreshing to hear. And in case you're wondering what I was talking about in terms of Chuck Jones getting in trouble with Warner later on, oh my god, if you've ever heard of a movie called Paris, it's a movie he worked on, but apparently he was legally obligated by Warner Brothers not to work on another film that was not within their company, and he did. He snuck around and did it. But what, because it was a UPA production. I just remember that. It was a UPA production. He worked on it. Warner didn't want him to work on anything else outside of their studio. And what ended up happening was Warner ended up being the distributors of Gay Puree, and they found out he was working on it, and they pitched a fit. So yeah, it's really ironic that Chuck Jones, who is known for his Warner shit, got in more hot water with Warner than he did with Disney, even though he didn't like working with Disney. So it's like, wow, shit, that must have been a blow. Uh, Wasn't that like what happened with Don Bluth? I need to look up more of Don Bluth's history. That dude, that man still amazes me. Yeah, and the thing about Don Bluth is, um, they continuously blame him for being the originator of the quote unquote Cal Arts face, in terms of how John Kay put it. But if I remember correctly, Don not only did not go to Cal Arts, I don't think he's ever taught there, because the dude's like Southern Midwestern to a T. Let's see. Meanwhile, Animaniacs got rid of most of their cast in the reboot because they felt that people wouldn't understand them or they were problematic. I doubt kids seen Goodfellas to begin with. And what else? Yeah, I couldn't get into the reboot because once more it played way too hard into being cynical instead of being um ridiculous, which is what works with the Animaniacs, because Animaniacs themselves are one big middle finger to not just pop culture, but to how a lot of TV animation in the United States was being treated, and how it was being, not treated badly by the studios, but by the censors, the moral guardians. And Animaniacs took a lot of shots at that, a lot of good shots, but it felt like the reboot missed that point completely and instead dove into that type of negative, cynical type of attitude, and it doesn't work because there's it doesn't feel like it doesn't come from it doesn't feel like it comes from a place where people just want to be as ridiculous as possible with animation. It's coming from people who think that they always have to use animation to make a point, and at a point that gets incredibly boring. So yeah, it just doesn't work. Let's see. The Animax reboot felt really preachy at times and hypocritical. They got rid of Hello Nurse because the boys drooling over her, but it was okay. They were about to drool over man. Yeah, if you didn't get the Hello joke nurse, I mean the Hello Nurse joke, then you, like I said, you clearly missed the point. The point was that yeah, she's sexy, but she doesn't care, and she's a lot smarter than people give her credit to, and that's the point. The point is that people are just judging her by her looks, yet she's cool enough to be the calmer head within the situation. She's like Miss Bellum. She's like Miss Bellum from the Powerpuff Girls. The idea is that she's hot, yet she's mature enough and smart enough to handle everything without, losing her shit. And that's what makes it funny. She's the most mature person in the entire room, yet the joke is that we probably wouldn't view her like that because she's hot. So yeah, they understood the Hello Nurse joke. And yes, it's funny when Dot, goes crazy too because I remember crap, what was that episode? It wasn't the Prince joke. It was another crap, I can't remember which short it was, um but Yakko Yakko and Wacko go nuts over, I think it was Hello Nurse. Then Dot complains, and then a hot guy comes out, and then she goes nuts in the most hilarious way that they've ever animated her. And this was in the original, and that's how you do jokes like that. You show the hypocrisy. You show the hypocrisy by calling it out, and they knew how to call it out by just making Dot go as crazy as her brothers. But if you don't let her brothers do their thing and only let her do her thing, then yeah, there's no joke in that anymore. It's like the Minerva Mink werewolf episode, because the whole joke about that was that the werewolf was a nerd, and Minerva, she doesn't, she didn't care about him. And the usual joke with those skits were that all the woodland animals go crazy for Minerva Mink, and their significant others either have to like blow a cannon in their face or slap them down or something. But in the werewolf episode, it's like a complete flip of that, and we see what happens when female characters get horny. That's how you play it. You play it to, you play both sides. You don't stop. How can I but you don't prevent one side from letting them do their jokes, and then just like give everything else to the other side, because it kills the joke. There's nothing funny about it anymore. Okay. Hello Nurse was a proposed catchphrase for Buster that wasn't used in Tiny Toons, but they reused it in Animaniacs, and hey, it worked. I mean, it got a good joke out of it, so yeah, they knew what to do with it. So let's see. Okay, the reboot had a guy who worked on Family Guy as a showrunner, which explains the cynicism. I guess it kind of depends on which writer it is, because there have been people that worked on Family Guy that do know their stuff, and they just know how to play it well. They know how to write for Family Guy, but they know how to write well for other things. So yeah, it just depends on which writer it was. So let's see. But other than that, uh, but guys, it's almost 1:40 in the morning here, so yeah, I am going to cut it short. I mean, we had a good discussion. I got out what I needed to do. So yeah. Uh I'm going to call it quits right now. I just wanted to see if this live stream would work. OBS worked well. So yeah, I just wanted to talk for tonight. I'm glad you guys came by. Hope you guys have a nice night, and if you haven't seen The Day the Earth Blew Up, go see it before it's, before it gets taken out of theaters. But like I said, I bet you it's gonna do gangbusters on streaming and physical. If you can't watch it in theaters, don't feel bad. Watch it, catch it when it streams. Buy the physical if they release that. If you have, if you use whatever options are good for you, because I know right now not everybody can just go out and see shit if they don't have the money or if it's not playing near them. So support it in any way that you can or think is good for it. Just do something positive. Don't go about screaming, panicking, and all that other shit I was talking about earlier. Just enjoy shit. Just have fun. Yeah. So, calling it ends right here. Everybody have a good night. Hope you, hope to do more streams in the future. So, good night, everyone.